Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. I wanted to cover what's going on with Hurricane Beryl in regards to Texas because this should be something that's obvious to people who have watched storms over the years or even just seen the Weather Channel showing you storm patterns. People should be able to see the steering of a storm. And if you actually watch what they're showing us with Texas and with this Hurricane Beryl, which hit the Caribbean, it's very clear that they wanted to steer this thing towards Texas. Now look on your screen and watch how this storm is just kind of crawling its way towards the bottom of Texas, almost like deliberately, because that's what they do, right? They put these towers up during the outbreak that they told you are there to make your phone go faster, yet everybody who has a phone and uses their phone has not noticed a change in how fast their phone is going because these are pretty much 5G towers that are in place that are serving as weather manipulators. They're able to use 5G towers, which are not there for your phone. They're pretty much HARP towers set up that can actually steer these things. So they were clearly pulling and inching this storm towards Texas to hit the coast of Texas. You can see that this is hitting the ports in Texas and it's also being steered towards Houston. Now, we don't ever see storm patterns move like this. Right? This is not following the natural jet stream. This is not something that looks normal if you actually watch the way that it's headed, right? It's literally deliberately crawling its way towards the exact bottom or the direct bottom of Texas, and then it's making a sharp direct turn, which again, it couldn't be more clear how quickly this thing hits the coast and then turns inland towards Houston. Now, why would they hit a city like Houston? Well, multiple reasons, right? Smart city infrastructure. The cities have to be torn down. Remember during the outbreak, all of these cities that had small business owners, like New York, for example, there's delis in New York. There's small places in New York City that have been there for a long time. People who inherited the property there never wanted to get rid of the property there because they made money there, whether it's newspapers, newsstands, things like that that have been there for a long time. They were forced to close shop because of the shutdowns and the lockdowns, because they weren't able to keep up with their rent payments. They weren't able to keep their businesses open because so many people were locked down. That was done by design to move small businesses out, to shut them down, and then to scoop up the property. And then again, remember this smart city infrastructure and this AI governance that they've constantly told us about. They have to destroy and put in and rebuild a lot of these properties to update them so that they can be smart savvy, right? So that they could be Bluetooth enabled, all these other things that go into having a smart city from a technological aspect. So look at this storm. I mean, this is not normal. This is not normal behavior. Now, what's good about this entire thing is that I believe they were trying to hit Texas with the Category 5, and it looks like it's turned into a tropical storm. So it's not as bad as they're making it out to be from everything that I've read and I've seen. Now, the mainstream media is telling you that there are millions without power, that people are underwater. And of course, they're going to do that every single time because they have to pump the climate initiative into people's minds that all this stuff has to do with the climate, has to do with climate change. We need to change the way we live. We have to change our behavior. But it doesn't seem like it's as bad as they had hoped it would be, which is a blessing. But they are targeting the ports, which is one of the reasons they target the coast, is to target the ports, which again will cause problems in regards to many things that are imported, including food. It'll cause a lot of less food to be on the shelf. So they closed all the ports before this came in. And I'm sure they're trying to put a lot of the ports completely underwater. So we'll see how this ends up turning out. But anybody out there that follows weather patterns, this is not a normal weather pattern. Okay? And why is it that Texas continually is getting hit so much? Why is it that Florida and Texas, the two most conservative states probably in 2024, that we know of, at least out in the open, right? There might be conservative states, like you might look at somewhere like Oklahoma, say that's very conservative. Of course, they hit that with tornadoes. They hit Oklahoma with tornadoes over and over and over again. But Florida and Texas are conservative states that they use to lure people in, right? There's a lot to it. I mean, they're not going to market a state like Oklahoma and get people excited to go live in Oklahoma. But Florida and Texas are states that we constantly see marketed as safe havens, right? States that won't have mandates, states that won't have ridiculous curriculum in the classrooms. Again, everything they're doing with the left-right paradigm goes into herding people into states that appeal to them. They're making it unlivable in states that don't follow your personal political ideologies, right? So in other words, a woman out there who is following the Democratic Party, who's completely under communist mind control, was likely to leave a conservative state because they feel threatened by the deliberate actions being taken by the Supreme Court with Roe v. Wade. The same for people like me and you who would lean towards a conservative viewpoint, who refuse any of these mandates if we're living in a liberal state. And they're going to tell us, oh my goodness, there's another variant. We're going to have lockdowns again, and we're going to have mandates if you want to have a job. Well, people like us are going to be forced out of those states. And the safe havens will be these conservative states. Now, my worry has always been, I've talked about this many times, so if you're new to it, these conservative states being honeypots for weaponized weather. And that's what you're seeing here. Remember, conservatives are anti-New World Order. Even if they're asleep to the Trump agenda and how Trump is pretty much serving as a wall in front of a revolution starting, right? Everybody's putting their hopes in the baskets of Trump and DeSantis. These people are serving as a barrier between civilians and the tyrannical government. So everybody's putting their hope in these conservative politicians instead of actually going and taking back our rights that they're taking away from us. So by design, the conservative states are becoming appealing options for conservatives. So it's almost like we need to have the mindset of infiltrating a Democratic state if this is what we're going to continue to see move forward. Now, the weaponized weather has only just begun. It's only just begun because these towers, they're up. And like I showed you in some of those clips that even Bill Nye and a lot of these scientists, they're not really scientists, they're actors, but a lot of these clowns who are going on national television are talking about how we need a big, big, big event. They're like begging for a big event so that they could convince people of the climate issue, the one that they're creating, right? The common person doesn't understand geoengineering. They don't understand cloud seeding. They don't understand the 5G towers. They don't understand HARP. They don't understand really anything that's actually going on. And when you show them the patents and you show them that the government has documentation talking about being able to weaponize the weather going back to the 1950s, some people do start to wake up, but others continue to refuse to believe that is truth because they don't want to think that the government could actually do that against them. They don't want to believe that not only the government can do it, they don't want to believe the government would do it. But everybody out there should be able to see this based on whatever your political affiliation is. That should be the common thing that people should be able to see. You should be able to see that this type of technology exists. And then if you are a Democrat, you should be fearful that this gets in the hands of, say, someone like Donald Trump, even though they're all working together. We're saying from a hypothetical standpoint, right? If you're so, they're so afraid of Trump and Trump getting into power, being a fascist, there's all these things that have been planted in their heads, then they should look at this type of technology and say, we cannot have this technology. We need to go against this technology. We shouldn't, but they don't want to believe that it actually exists. They really do believe that these towers are in place for their phone to go faster, and nobody sees their phones going faster. All we see is what? Weird, strange weather anomalies ever since the outbreak. More so than normal. They've had the ability to do it for a long period of time. We know about the cloud seeding. I covered Dubai. What happened in Dubai, right? Dubai openly talks about cloud seeding. They're probably the only place that openly brags about cloud seeding and having the ability to make it rain. And it still goes in one ear, out the other ear of many of these people who refuse to wake up to what's going on. You say, look, in Dubai, they can cloud seed. They openly admit it. Look, they say, we can make it rain. Oh, wow, they have the ability to do it. Yeah, they do. So then you would say, okay, so they could cloud seed. Then they get a ridiculous flood that wipes out Dubai, not the entire city, but wipes out a lot of the infrastructure that's in place. They have to change the structure of a lot of buildings to be back up to code, right? Those are the things that they're deliberately doing. So people out there should be able to go, hey, you know what? If they could make it rain in Dubai, then they can make it rain anywhere. This isn't some technology that's only available in Dubai. They did it in the Vietnam War with Operation Popeye. So they have the ability to do it. I've proven that. Everybody out there should be able to figure that out. And what most people need to do is watch the patterns of these storms. The fact that this storm veered the way that it did, you could tell that it was steered. It was steered directly towards the coast of Texas, making sure that it touched land right at the base of Texas, hitting the entire coast. It hits the entire coast of Texas, from the bottomest point to the highest point. And it's veering in towards Houston, okay, because these storms are going to continue to go after major cities, because the cities need to have a reconfiguration of the infrastructure. So this is done deliberately. This should be something people look at and say, okay, well, the hurricane might not be as bad as they said it was going to be, because they did say that this was going to be very, very harmful to Texas. Obviously, the propaganda out there is telling you that millions are without power. They're showing Texas underwater. But from what I'm seeing and reading, it seems like it turned into a tropical storm, more so than anything else, which again is a blessing, which happens a lot with their plans. Their plans get foiled a lot. But like I said earlier, if you watch the other videos I did about how they have the ability to weaponize the weather, you hear them on TV talking about, hey, are people believing in the climate stuff going on? Are they believing it's real? And they're all openly saying, well, it's going to take something really big to make them believe it. Well, clearly that means that they're going to create something really big so that you believe it, because the plan is to have climate laws in place. The climate laws are the lockdown laws. They're permanent, okay? If you hated what happened during 2020, where the people were fearful of the common cough, they are going to make it permanent, and they're going to create massive catastrophes all around the world, specifically in the United States of America in the next couple of years. And they're going to make it seem as if conservatives ignore and say, hey, climate stuff isn't real. That's what they want conservatives' mindset to be, right? They want them to say it's not real without them saying and speaking up and saying, hey, you know what? The United States government has the ability, as do the other governments around the world, to weaponize weather. They have the ability to create hurricanes. They have the ability to create droughts. They can do whatever they want now with geoengineering and these towers that are up, these HARP towers, essentially. So you'll never hear the conservatives say that. All the conservatives do is just say, oh, climate change, it's not real. They're just, there's a cult. They're all a cult of people obsessed with this topic. As they continue to see these weather anomalies, they don't address the weather anomalies. They just go, oh, it's, yeah, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit different. But okay, but, we don't need to do this, as drastically as they're telling us we need to do it, instead of calling out what it really is. The government has the ability to do this, and it's going to be blamed on conservatives in the future because conservatives ignored it. And conservative politicians continue to mock it and make fun of it instead of talking about weaponized weather. And they never will talk about it because they want the common person out there to never realize that the government has this capability and is using it on civilians. I thank everybody for being here. Prayers to anybody affected by the hurricane/tropical storm. Obviously, it's not as extreme as they said it was going to be, but still, they're trying to put people underwater. And these conservative states are going to be honeypots. They're going to try to lure Christians into these states and people who are anti-New World Order and hit them with things just like this. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you and your families, as always.